All right, welcome everybody to our latest Live Motocross podcast as we talk all things AMA Supercross ahead of Indy and speak some MXGP with Jason Thomas. Obviously, firstly, thank you everyone for listening and supporting the website. We really appreciate it. We'd also like to give a massive thanks to our sponsor for this one in Fly Racing. Obviously, Fly Racing is aimed to provide customers with the very best in off-road performance products, led by the revolutionary Formula S Smart Helmet. Fly Racing continues to push innovation in safety to new levels. Never before has style and technology blended together so seamlessly as the 2025 Fly Racing lineup. For more info, check out flyracing.com. Visit your local dealer. Obviously, follow flyracing.global on socials and cheer for all your riders in the SMX and MXGP World Championship. All right, JT, how's life? And thanks for joining us again, mate. Been another massive week for you in the schedule.
Yeah, everything's good. I'm just on my way to Indianapolis now and looking forward to guess what's round nine. And then everybody will take a much needed weekend off, except for me. I will be headed over to Spain to catch round two of MXGP. So I wouldn't have it any other way. You may want to check with me in 10 days or so and see if I still feel the same way I do right now. But as of right now, I'm excited to get back to the EU and check out the boys over there.
Oh, awesome, mate. Obviously, that's probably not a bad place to start, actually, because you commentated that GP last year. Obviously, there was a lot of talk about the track and the champions were crowned Prado and De Wolf. So, pretty awesome event to be a part of. Obviously, Hurling's had his commentary afterwards. I think they've been doing quite a lot of work to the track. So, it's going to be interesting to see firsthand from both comparisons of being there what it looks like, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the series has changed a lot, just with the exit of Prado and yeah, it's just going to be. I think it's going to be interesting to kind of get the feel of things for 2025.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one to check out. Obviously, the opener we'll touch on later, but on to Supercross, mate. And I guess Daytona, you made some really good points about the track and the lighting and how it must be quite, firsthand how tough it is with those ruts and the different shades of dirt and just a lot going on there for the riders. And it's super fast as well. So the risk was pretty high. And you saw someone like Kitchen have a massive crash. And I guess there's some areas for improvement there because it is pretty dangerous, especially those high speed sections. But your overall thoughts on the track, another pretty solid build as well. The series has been delivering in terms of track. So just a quick bit of talk on that.
Yeah, it was good overall. Daytona presents some unique challenges that we don't face often. An underreported on aspect is how dark it is at night, and when you couple that with really jet black dirt, it becomes really difficult to see all the ruts and bumps and shadows. And it's not that you can't see them at all; it's just that you can't see them with the precision that you want to when you're going that fast and having to make decisions the way you are. So comparatively to the vision that riders typically have, it's significantly worse. And you hear it from riders every time, especially first time visitors. Like I would have loved to talk to the SMX Next riders after Saturday night because I promise you, it was one of the first things they said when they came off. It's like I couldn't see, I couldn't see. And what happens is, the lights are coming from an angle from the speedway, and then and they're really far away. So you have less light from an awkward angle. And anytime you have light coming from the side, that's going to create a shadow in the bottom of anything compared to a typical stadium or even better, a dome where the lights are above. So you get direct light down, or, a typical thing about daylight coming from directly top down. So your depth perception and knowing what's in the bottom of ruts or how deep ruts are really suffers. And, that's not something that's going to change for Daytona. I just think it's a nuance that doesn't get talked about enough. But I thought that this layout was good. There was passing, there were options. We saw riders able to get creative. Roczen didn't have any trouble making moves. And that was pretty typical throughout really the entire night. Riders could get creative with lines and make passes happen. And that's not always the case for Daytona. We've seen it where if it gets really slow and really tight, riders can't do much. They just kind of follow each other from inside to inside all the way around the track, and it's really tough to pass. So overall, I kind of gave this track layout 2 thumbs up, and it's unfortunate that Levi crashed where he did. This is arguably the fastest section of the racetrack. But this is it was one of those sections where Levi probably took more risk than I think he should have. And you heard other rider, you heard Eli Tomac say, I kind of saw that coming with Kitchen. because he was trying to blitz through the takeoff, and it's faster to do what he's doing, no question, right? He's trying to not jump as high, and if he can kind of blitz through it, then he stays lower and maintains the momentum he's carrying into it. The trouble is, if you get it wrong, the penalty is extremely high, and that's what you saw with Kitchen, and he can get away with a lot of those things because he's so lanky. So when the bike kicks, he has longer legs, so it's almost like, a strut or suspension that's going to give him more clearance to get away with those things. But there's only so much you can get away with, and on that one, he just got way too far over the front, and yeah, he paid a big price for it. But when you hear riders of Eli Tomac's caliber talking about the risk reward not being there, that's a strong statement, because those guys, their entire racing career is about managing risk. They're experts in that arena. And Eli was just kind of like that. That's one of those areas where you had to be mindful of it. You couldn't just ignore the risk and let your ambition kind of carry the day. And you saw the 450 guys, like, they were trying to go faster there, but they also knew that this is not the place to get frisky, because this would bite you in a big hurry. So overall, great track. I just, I wanted to qualify it a little bit, because I don't want to see one of the stars of the sport get hurt on a track and then say it, was fantastic. But I did think the design was good.
Yeah, it's excellent insight there, mate. A lot to take away from that track, and it's a really sort of statement event on the calendar for sure. And I guess moving to Indy, obviously it's going to be another massive weekend. 250 East-West showdown as well will be another massive focus as well this weekend. And you mentioned in your Race Rex column just what an underrated race it is. It's often overlooked, but it is a really good one. Obviously the track is exceptionally demanding. But yeah, there's Kenny Roczen, Cooper Webb, they should be right up for the fight there. And you obviously picked Ken Roczen when we spoke last week in Daytona. You were saying it's sort of all lining up quite nicely, mate. So good one on that too.
Yeah, I'll take a victory lap alongside Kenny there. It wasn't, to be fair though, it wasn't how I kind of drew it up in my mental whiteboard. I thought he would get the start, and then I just thought he would be able to sprint away and then manage it. He did the opposite. This was a very unconventional win for Kenny, to work through the pack, pass the riders that have given him the most problems, and then be able to hold strong at the end. It was like he checked every box of things that he had a difficult time doing in the past. So that had to feel rewarding, not only winning, but the way he won had to be extremely rewarding. And when he finally got to bed on Saturday night, I'm sure sleep came easy. That I'm sure he just felt great about himself. And those moments, I write about this quite a bit. For riders, a lot of time, and I would say Aaron Plessinger is very much in this category for Daytona. Yes, when you win a race and you do, you put in a fantastic result, there is a lot of joy. There's excitement and, high-fiving, and everybody's happy and all that. Yes, that is true. But I always felt, and talking with other riders, they felt this too, the sense of relief was the stronger emotion of anything else, because there's expectation and you don't want to let people down, and what you're supposed to do and supposed to accomplish. It's almost like an exhale of relief that you did what you are paid to do and expected to do, versus just being so overjoyed. There is joy, don't get me wrong, but I always felt like the team members, your friends, your family, they felt more joy than the rider did. The rider was just finally able to just like, oh, okay, I did it, and that's a great feeling. Don't miss my point, but they are feeling a sense of relief versus pure excitement and joy. So it's just a strange kind of emotion to feel. I think in the end, riders will take either or. But I don't hear that talked about so much. You just see everybody smiling and so happy. But I think deep down, the riders are just they're feeling a little bit different than I think fans at home would maybe think. And this had to be no doubt for Kenny. Finally winning Daytona in his 11th year, holding off Cooper Webb late when Webb was making the charge. Like, there were a lot of kind of bullet points to the story other than just the headline of Ken Roczen wins Daytona, right? There were a lot of undertones to how he went about it.
Yeah, it was really good. It'd be great to see if he can carry that momentum into Indy. Obviously, he's had success there in the past, and he's definitely right in that title hunt, only 16 points back. He's showing the staying power, and like we've mentioned, the fitness is good, and the key thing, happy on the bike. And you never know what would happen if he didn't have that spill in Tampa. He probably might even have the red plate like he's already had this year. And you can see Webb kicking himself. Mate, he was angry about that one. That mistake prevented him from getting the overall, but top speed, the riding's still really good. There's a lot of positives to take away. Obviously, in the moment, you could tell you could see that look on his face that say he didn't want to get in his way, mate. But yeah, going to be a really cool main event within a main event, the battle between those two again.
Yeah, say what you want about Cooper Webb, but you're going to get exactly how he's feeling, and he tones it down a little bit. I try to share this where I can, but the moments before we go on air are a great snapshot of their real emotion. And these guys are very good about kind of hiding that and making sure that they're the consummate professional when they have to go on camera. And sometimes they even struggle with that. But before we go on, I mean, Webb in Daytona, it was much worse in Tampa. It was irate. I mean, genuinely angry. And when we went live, he pulled it together because that's who he is, and he knows he has to just kind of be a man in the moment. But yeah, Cooper Webb doesn't really hold back. He doesn't hide his feelings. He has responsibilities to thank the people that got him there and make sure that he's engaging with his fan base. But make no mistake, he was really, really angry with himself for making the mistakes he did. And Tampa was a little different. Tampa, he was mad at the Lapper situation for himself and also for Kenny going down in that situation. He was really angry at both. He felt like he left a win on the table. This was much more just about him. He knew that the win was there to go get if he executed when Kenny was vulnerable. And there was like a window, a one lap window where 5 minutes left. Kenny made a couple mistakes. Coop got to the back of him. If Cooper could have struck right then, I think all those years of the psychological hurdles that Kenny has faced would have resurfaced really quickly. But when Coop made the mistake and Kenny got the gap back again, it re-energized him and it gave him a boost of confidence that, like, no, I can do this. And that was all she wrote. That was literally the end of it. And it's, racing can come down to just a couple of moments. Like the entire main event can be encapsulated in a few corners. And Coop got there. You could sense Kenny was kind of panicking a little bit because he's like, oh no, not again. Then Coop makes that pivotal mistake, change the entire trajectory of the last 5 minutes. And that was all she wrote. Now, I don't want to take credit away from Kenny because he did all the things. He passed everybody, got to the front, built the lead, and he held on in the last 5 minutes. But there was a moment. I want to make sure that's very clear. There was a moment where this could have changed, and Cooper didn't do what he needed to do, and Kenny did just enough to make sure that he was able to stay there. And sometimes, they say, life or sports can be a game of inches, and it doesn't have to be measured in literal inches. It can just be in the margins. Like these little subtleties can really affect the end outcome. And I think that was never truer than Daytona.
Yeah, that's a quality take on how it played out there, mate. And obviously, you had a great interview with Kenny when you're on the Pulp Show this week. He's quite open and he sort of shares his thoughts. And yeah, it was really great to hear what he has to say about that win. Yeah, and that just dealing with all that he has to deal with, mate. It's pretty cool, the program he's got set up now and he's happy with everything. And yeah, I can't wait for that one. It would be great. And obviously, how good was AP? Getting on the podium, mate. Awesome result after a tough season. Obviously, he was doing the big burnout with the fans afterward. He's a massive favourite. Everyone loves him, and he had some pretty good battles up there. He looked like sort of the AP of old was coming back there. He was stoked, and he definitely needed that. And it's always good for the series too, with so many heavy hitters out, having a different guy on the podium, and especially one of AP's caliber.
Yeah, I think everybody felt good for AP because it's been a rough slog here through 7 rounds before we got to Daytona. And I don't think he could really tell you exactly why. That's the toughest part of a night or a series first half anyway. It was like just one thing after another. A crash with Ferrandis. He got sick. He was beat up like from those crashes, bad starts. I mean, you name it. He was finding ways to have bad weekends, and a big part of life is working towards or putting yourself in position for success, and not the opposite, right? Like, don't put yourself in bad situations. And it just felt like AP couldn't avoid the bad situations, like whether it was on the first lap or wherever during the week, getting sick. Like, nobody wants to get sick, but it was all these little things that kept adding up to a poor result on the weekend. So when I mentioned earlier about that sense of relief, I saw it in AP. He was just like, oh my God, thank God I did something right. Like, I don't have to go back to the Red Bull KTM truck and everybody be disappointed in my night, and that stuff goes a long way because, AP he's in a contract year, so he's going to have to figure out this whole thing. And when you just are getting ninths and tenths, there's simply not room for these teams for a ride like that. But you put yourself in podium contention with the fan base you have and the likability that you have. He's very easy to work with. Everybody wants him around. That goes a long way. And those are, the nuanced stuff. Yes, great result. He felt great, but thinking big picture, somewhere along the way, January, February, somewhere he was thinking, man, I have to figure this out or I'm not going to have a factory bike next year, right? And I don't know how close we are. I don't know where he's going to end up. Maybe he stays there. I don't know what's going to happen in his future, but you cannot continue to just struggle week in and week out in a contract year. That just won't work. So this had to feel good on multiple fronts for him.
Yeah, he's always good. He's a great fan favorite and well said on him. Yeah, hopefully he can continue that momentum as well. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on Chase Sexton, mate. The event started pretty well. Obviously, he was on rails, qualifying fast as well. Looks always good as he does. And yeah, had to go through the LCQ after that huge crash in the heat. I'm assuming that took it out of him because at one point, like you were saying, it looked like he might have been on for a win, if not a podium, and yeah, had a pretty impressive charge on there. But yeah, strange to see that drop off at the end. But another sort of tough marker in his season full of ups and downs. There's been plenty of highs, plenty of lows, and must be taking a toll on him mentally dealing with all this adversity. So hopefully we can see him get a flex on and get that win in Indy, like a really comprehensive win. It'd be quite good for him. He'd like to silence some of the critics, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I can't imagine the mental anguish that Chase is going through. I can't say I've ever had to deal with something like this. You just think about how rough this has been on his psyche it's been weekend after weekend. That's really the problem. It hasn't been, oh, I had a bad weekend and then I went out and won and sorted everything out. Like, it's really been one after another in succession. And he really hasn't been able to kind of take a breather and kind of figure things, you know what I mean? Like, just have any sort of success where he can say, all right, well, it didn't go my way, but that's okay. We're going to get this thing figured out. It just has been everything that could possibly go wrong time and time and time again. And you have to like take some of the blame if you're Chase. Like, you can't blame anybody else. Like, it's on him for making these mistakes. And I think he would be the first one to tell you, like, Tampa, he just crashed by himself. Indianapolis, he just crashed into the back of Webb, really, when he had the win in the bag. And I know all the things that were there, right? Like, he wanted to send a message to Coop. Like, that all makes a ton of sense. Like, there's no doubt about the why in his head as a competitor, why he wanted to take the risks that he did. Like, I appreciate all those things. But when you start to add these things up over time, man, like, if you look at the way Tampa went and you look at the way Daytona went, and you could say, okay, let's stop. There's one lap to go at Arlington. This is what all the noise around you. You have the Tampa thing. You have the benefit of foresight of knowing what's going to happen in Daytona. I can promise you, he just like, nope. He might even like roll around the track. He's like, I'm not doing anything to jeopardize. Get like a 3-point gap for the overall, right? Like, he could have just literally cruised around that last lap and absorbed that Arlington win. And this championship picture would feel a lot different. He would still have made the mistakes, wouldn't be great, but that Arlington win would loom large, because it was a 10-point swing. When you factor in, he would have been first. Well, excuse me, it would have been an 8-point swing between what he got. He got third overall, right? So he gets 20 points. He would have gotten 25. And Webb, instead of getting 25, would have gotten 22. So that's 8 points back to the good. He's only 2 points out of the lead now. The championship feels a lot different, 2 points out of the lead going into Indy versus 3 bad races in a row where it's all been self-inflicted harm, unforced errors on his part, and he's 10 points out of the lead. Like, it just, you think about these things, and I know it's impossible, and I have the benefit of hindsight. I'm just saying, when I make a point about these small, subtle things in the middle of a series, they add up and they compound, really, is what they do. And when you're a rider like Chase, who, I'm on record many times saying I think he is very susceptible to swings in his emotion, swings in his confidence level, and momentum. Where, think about a guy like Cooper Webb, I think is good with this. Chad Reed was the ultimate in this, is like good, bad, or indifferent. He's going to be the same guy next Saturday that he was this Saturday. You can beat him by 45 seconds today, and next Saturday, he's going to show up and think he's going to win the race. That's just who he is. I watched it firsthand. I still don't understand how he did it, but he was able to compartmentalize whatever had gone on. And I that's really the word I think that's appropriate here, is Chase Sexton does not seem able to compartmentalize what's happened week to week, right? Like, whatever happens, what happened in Tampa, I think was still on his mind in Arlington, and that was still on his mind in Daytona, and it will probably still be on his mind in Indy, where you look at the best of the best. Doesn't have to be Supercross. It can be any sport. They're able to say, you know what happened that time doesn't mean that's going to happen this time. It's a completely different situation. Everything has changed. I cannot let prior events dictate future events. Cannot let that happen. And the best of the best find ways to do that. And I don't know how Chase is going to change that, because it seems like it's endemic into his personality and its psyche now. I know he's spoken to sports psychologists, and that seems like the primary way to work through these things. But from what I've seen thus far, it doesn't seem to be taking. Now, he's saying the right things. If you speak to him in his interviews, he's saying all the right things, but actions speak so much louder than words in these moments when the adrenaline's up and your heart rate's up and you have to make split-second decisions and react. You're not able to premeditate decisions. You're just reacting. He doesn't seem like he is kind of taking the medicine prescribed to him, if that makes sense. And it's a tough spot, and if you were ever looking for a ride to shift momentum, it's got to be this weekend. It has to be, because going into an off weekend, if he has another tough one and lets that fester over the course of 2 full weeks before he gets to right that wrong, I don't want to write off championships. I know better than that. Look at 2023. He was 18 points down with 2 rounds to go and found a way to win. I will not write him off in this championship. It just, man, these things start festering and they take hold and they start to, again, I'll say that word again, they compound. The effects of these things compound, and things can get rolling momentum-wise in a good way or a bad way, and they are rolling in the wrong direction for Chase Sexton right now, and he has to find a way to break whatever is going on in his mind. Like I wrote the other day in a column, and sorry I'm just rambling so long here, but I wrote in a column the other day, there's a movie called Sunshine or Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and Jim Carrey is in it, and he dates this girl, falls madly in love with her, and then she breaks his heart, and he cannot get out of this funk he's in. Like, he cannot handle the heartbreak that he's feeling. And it's in the future, I think, but he goes to this center and they'll basically wipe specific memories out. Like, they'll wipe your memory so you don't have any recollection of an event, a person, whatever. And he goes there and he doesn't even know this person existed anymore, and he's okay. Like, that's like the spotless mind. That person doesn't exist in his world anymore. So all the emotion attached to it is now gone. And I was thinking, like, Chase needs to go to that center. Like, he needs to get all these bad memories and bad thoughts, because I think that's what's affecting him. At some point in these races, he's getting bad thoughts in his brain about what can go wrong. How can I screw this up? Is the same thing going to happen again? I think that Ken Roczen had those same thoughts and for a long time, and probably still will, about Cooper Webb. Anytime Coop gets near him late, he's going to let those thoughts creep into his brain. And so, pardon my movie reference, like it's a really obscure one, but if you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. These guys have to find a way to compartmentalize week to week results and come back and be completely oblivious to everything else going on around them. So there's my, I don't even know, 8-minute diatribe on one question, but here we are.
No, it's awesome, mate. Talk as much as you like. The fans love it. I'm a massive fan of it too. And it's a really excellent analysis of the Sexton situation. And especially when you're battling someone like Webb, who's just constantly putting pressure on, keeping the foot on the throat. And he takes everything in his stride, like you said, while he was, particularly angry after the main event. He can instantly forget those bad days, or not even a bad day, or unsatisfactory result in his mind, and shift quickly onto the next objective. So, like we've touched on, but yeah, really great stuff. It's always a great chat with you about Sexton, and obviously onto the 250 showdown this one. But give us a bit of insight onto RJ Hampshire, mate. Obviously, awesome win for him, awesome for Fly, and you did that excellent interview with him afterwards. Obviously, you know him well in the family, but yeah, getting stronger and stronger. Obviously 17th at the opener, then the podium, then the win. So the momentum and the trajectory is really looking good for him. So yeah, RJ, it's looking like he'll be primed for success this weekend too, potentially in the showdown.
Yeah, these showdown events are awesome. And, I think RJ's in a great place. He loves these showdown events. And why wouldn't he? When you look at the results, this event, not specifically Indy, but this showdown event last year is what got him over the hump to win the championship. Bar none, period. This is where he ended up winning, because if you look at the point swing from last year, he got first in Nashville, and Levi Kitchen got 14th, and the other one, Salt Lake, he got second, and Levi got fifth. So it was like a 20-point swing, something like that, between the two. And it's funny, I talked to RJ. I can't remember if he said this on air or not, but he said before Daytona, he was already worried about Indy. And he's like, I'm excited to win Daytona. It's awesome, means a lot. But I've been thinking about Indy all week, because I know what happened last year, and I know how pivotal that race is, because the points, you double the talent. There's so much opportunity for everybody to put big amounts of points into your competitors. And when you're down, 15 points or whatever it was, he needs those. He needs those opportunities. It doesn't mean it's going to go your way. All you're looking for is an opportunity to claw those points back. And so he is hell bent on going to Indy and winning Indy. Like, he's like, all week, I thought, I have to win Indy. I have to win Indy. I have to win Indy. I'm like, well, hey man, you just won Daytona. So let's think about that for a second. He's like, yeah. He's obviously excited, but it was interesting to me to see how focused he was on a race that we were still a week away from. So it should put him in a good place. Like, he's really honed in on the track map and all the things he has to do. And, starting the main event against double the amount of good riders, and what that means for gate pick and all those things that he's been gaming out ahead of time. So we'll see if that works to his advantage. But, these showdown events are, outside. If we had a showdown Triple Crown, it would be like the pinnacle of our racing format. It would be as good as you can get, because we have all the talent and the best, product format wise that we can offer. But I'm really interested to see how this goes, see how Deegan stacks up against, RJ and Max Anstey. I think is going to bounce back in a big way when we go to Indy. He really hasn't had any real headlines in a minute, because he had that incredible opener. Then Kitchen stole his thunder. And then, last weekend, he really wasn't even a factor, because he crashed on the start. So it's been a minute since we've had Max Anstey on the tip of our tongues, but I think he's going to remind us very quickly on Saturday of who he is and what he's capable of, and why he likely should have been 1-2 opening rounds. And you could argue he would have won Daytona also. Like, I watched him all day. He was ripping. And with that start, I mean, it would have been game on with him and RJ, So it's been a few unfortunate incidents that have kept him. He still has the points lead, but have really kept him, I think, from extending that points lead in a big way. But I really do think he comes out swinging. I think he's going to win the race in Indianapolis. There's a lot of talent that's I'm not trying to discredit Deegan or RJ or whoever your favorite is. But yeah, I have Max Anstie circled on my I don't even know what it would be on. I guess on my note sheet. But I did want to make a note. Julian Bomer has not ridden at all since where were we? Where there was Arlington. He hasn't ridden at all. So he is going to race, but he is definitely injured, and I don't know what that's going to look like. Hopefully he can go. Hopefully he can show up and be relatively close. But when you haven't ridden at all, that tells me you're not you're not very healthy, right? Like if you told me he was just riding a little bit and doing turn track and stuff, I'd be like, okay, they're trying to save his shoulder as much as possible. When you can't ride at all, that means there's something very wrong structurally. And they're like, hey, we're just going to wait. We're going to do nothing and we're going to give it a go. And it may not go well at all. If you told me after Indy he's out and he's getting shoulder surgery, I wouldn't be shocked because that's what that means when you don't touch your motorcycle at all before the race is, hey, we're going to try this thing. You think about like McAdoo, right? Like he didn't ride. He injured his knee and he's like, I'm just going to see how it goes at Tampa on the race. And he was able to do it. Credit to him. But yeah, difficult situation for Bomer and makes life a little easier for Hayden Deegan. That's for sure. When you know your I'd say biggest competitor in the championship isn't practicing whatsoever because of injury, you don't want to see people get hurt, but yeah, secretly deep down, you're like, whoo, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's all lining up quite nicely for Deegan. Obviously, like you mentioned, the other injuries, but Smith also being out, so it's a tough one. Obviously, lessens the field a little bit, but yeah, the talent's still huge in that 250 showdown. It'd be great to see how Cole Davies does, for example. Hymas and Hammaker are really building some momentum as well. And Vial just keeps it consistent, so he could really scoop up a lot of points with a solid result. And we're still looking for Faulkner to really prove himself and put in some great results in that triumph. But there's a lot of storylines, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I think Faulkner's going to have a tough go of it. I think I just haven't seen enough from him to really do it. Like he just doesn't have the raw speed that he had, and it could come back over time. I just right now, I think he's just gonna be working back to the guy he was. But I do want to see what Bial can do. He's quietly hanging around, and Daytona's a good round for him. He got second, great race, but it's a little sneaky right now. He hasn't been the guy. He hasn't really asserted himself, but when you look at the points, if you didn't watch any of the racing, you'd be like, all right, I can see a pathway to win. Like he's just right there. He's not far down at all. So he's the guy that we need to keep our eye on because if he gets hot, we could show up and he has a red plate and you'd be like, how the hell did he pull that off? We haven't even talked about him, but he's just been solid, right? 5.42 is how you get there. Like you just hang around and hang around. When you have guys that are inconsistent, as a guy like RJ is, and Max has kind of opened the door a little bit. Crazier things have happened. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, it's going to shape up so good. There'll be a lot to enjoy there, mate, and in person as well for yourself on the broadcast. So great to see. And obviously, we'll finish up with a little bit of MXGP chat. Obviously, the season kicked off in Argentina. Renault winning, Febvre second. They obviously split wins. Super impressive ride for Renault. Obviously, he's been through a lot with injuries, but he's fit, happy on the bike, and he's an animal in training, and he does everything in his power to succeed. And I remember doing a podcast with him after his last win in Switzerland, which was nearly 700 days ago or so. And yeah, he's a great bloke, super determined. He's got that hard work instilled into him, the mindset. Obviously, so grateful for the parents' sacrifice, helping him when he was younger. So hopefully, him and Febvre can both stay fit and stay in this fight against Geyser, who obviously started with a 3-3. So just solid for him. You can't win it in the first round, but you can certainly put yourself in a bit of a hole. So solid, he can just assess the competition, assess where he's at, and move on to Spain where you'll be. And lastly, some words on Lucas Kernan as well. Pretty mysterious about that injury. There wasn't heaps of sort of news. There wasn't much transparency, but 6 overall in the fly racing kit. Pretty solid for him, wasn't it? A lot of takeaways from that round too in the MXGP class.
Yeah, it's Renault, I think that was impressive. Struggling to find the right word because I want to use surprising, I want to use unexpected, but I think impressive is the most fitting, because to go in there when I don't know, everybody was thinking Geiser. When you look at the situation, this is really Geiser's championship to lose, in my opinion. And it's one race and it's far away. It's a track that none of these guys have ever ridden. So certainly can't get carried away, as you mentioned. And Geiser's on the podium; he's right there. But I give Renault a lot of credit, and it hasn't been easy. He's been battling injuries for a couple of years now, and all that momentum he had, all the hype that everybody had, faded. Nobody was really talking about Renault. We all know he's capable, but when you can't stay upright and you can't put in results, yeah, what are we really going to talk about? What are we going to get excited about? But I'll be damned if he didn't go out and do it. So kudos to him. Fantastic job from him. And I'm sure that felt great for he and Yamaha and all the people that have had his back through all this tough time. Torsten and Alex and everybody from Yamaha EU that I know, they had to be just over the top excited about him finding his form again. And that's really what it's about, is what someone's capable of, but they have to be their best self to do it. And that's what this was. This is him showing that, like, hey, I'm back. Like, all that drama I went through, all the injuries and frustration that everybody felt, nothing's assured, but at least we have firm footing to work from here. So good for him. Febvre did what Febvre does. Like, he's a championship guy every year. Can he stay healthy? That's a question. But if you're telling me Febvre's healthy and he's going to be battling for the podium every time. Like, is it always going to go his way? No. Are there tracks where he's not quite as good? Sure. But you don't win a couple world championships and be a factor for this long without knowing how to do it. Like, that just goes without saying. So I have a ton of respect for him as a racer and a competitor. And this was just kind of par for the course, I think, for Febvre. He just reminded everybody that he's here. Tiga was good, but, a little underwhelming. I always feel like in a situation like this where everybody's expecting you to come in and dominate, when everybody's already kind of given you the nod, you have to step up and take it in those moments. You can't leave it to doubt, like anything to chance. You can't give other people confidence. You have to come in and suck the air out of the room, and you have to, stand on their neck. Like, I know that's graphic, but that's what guys do in situations. You look at Ricky Carmichael, when they had the ball in their court, they would leave nobody any room to believe otherwise. Like, they were just like, nope, you have no chance of beating me, and I don't want you to ever think that you do. And so for Geiser, we'll see how he responds in Spain, but I think it was a little bit of a missed opportunity to come in and say, well, yeah, like, of course I killed all you guys. What'd you think was going to happen? And so I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it. I just felt like it was a chance for him to establish the narrative that everyone else was already thinking. And he opened the doorway a little bit to people kind of looking around going, well, maybe not. I don't know. Like, he didn't look that good. So we'll see. I still overwhelmingly pick him to be the champion in this class by quite a bit. But it was a little bit of sometimes if you crack the door, somebody that's looking for a way in will blow that door off the hinges. And so I was just thinking that was kind of the sports psychologist in me that was thinking about that a little bit. And then you mentioned Kuhn, and I have no words for what he accomplished. Like, that to me was incredible. I don't have 100% certainty, but I'm very confident in the fact that he had broken arms. I don't know how badly. I didn't see the x-rays, but I know people who did. I don't know how he did that. I really don't know how he went out there and rode like that. And these guys are ridiculously fast. Like, you see sixth, then somebody that doesn't know better would be like, whatever, he got sixth. That's not that hard. You're out of your mind. To get sixth overall in MXGP right now is brutally difficult. And when you think of the condition he was in to do that, and his first 450 race ever, well, in MXGP anyway, he rode some warm-up stuff. Nothing but respect for that kid. And you start to think about, what does that look like if he's 100% healthy? That's going to be a lot of fun when he gets there. And I'll be in Spain. I'll be with the team. Of course, Fly Racing is sponsoring that team. So I'll get a lot more insight as to what went on, and I'll report back on this podcast. But they were very tight-lipped. Like, I asked specific questions, and it was just like I didn't ask at all. Like, I got no response at all. It was just anything. We'll talk about anything but that, So I think there was a sigh of relief for them to get some points and get out of there and have a few weekends off to recover, and then we'll get back to Spain. So that was, I think a lot of it was to be expected. And then, MX2, I think, was exactly what we thought was going to happen. I thought DeWolf would win. I think he's the best rider in the class, but there will be opportunities for other guys to win races. Langenfelder can certainly win. Sasha Kunin's going to start up front nearly every time, and he'll win a GP or two. But yeah, I thought the MX2 class was almost as advertised. There wasn't a lot of surprise for me in that class.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, mate. Obviously, KTM and Huskies filling five of the top six spots. Kai de Wolf going 1-5 for the win. Simon's crashes just really hindered him. Very frustrating that for him, I'm sure. And just a quick final word on the Ducatis as well. Really impressive stuff there, getting both the whole shots. Positive weekend for Jeremy and Mattia. So exciting addition to the series for sure on a full-time basis. So watch for them to keep improving, isn't it?
Yeah, that was awesome. For them to be that good, because let's be honest, when we watch, or for me anyway, when I watched, whether it was Lupino or Cairoli or whoever, it wasn't that impressive. Like, it's okay. I was like, first year bike, like, this to be expected. It wasn't anything amazing to me. And then you follow that up with this second year effort in MXGP, both of them whole shotting, running at the front. Like, that was a serious statement about, I think, what they will be capable of long term. And they deserve a lot of credit. I've talked a lot about the same thing with Triumph, how competitive they have been right out of the gate. And I think the same credit needs to be given to Ducati for being this capable this early with this little of development. I think the ask there is incredibly high, and they're doing it. Like, this is really impressive stuff. And I think all the other teams have to be like, yeah, we want to beat them, but man, that's pretty good. Like, good. They have to give them credit for coming in completely cold to MXGP on a different continent and doing the thing. That's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, mate. Just quickly, any final thoughts? Rest of the week's busy, no doubt, and obviously the racing as well. And then you're off to Spain. But any fans that are sort of thinking about it, get to Indy if you can, isn't it?
Yeah, Indy's great. It's going to be cold, so let's not kid ourselves. It's going to be a cold weekend there, but I think for anybody who's never been, it's a very underrated event on the calendar. They've done a great job of kind of revitalizing downtown, and like Detroit, I would say, yeah, it's everything you think it's going to be. Cold, dark, downtown's not great. I think that's a fair representation. But Indy, while you would think it's the same because they're not far apart, same weather, same industrial type town, they couldn't be further apart as far as how the event feels and what the nightlife is like. It's just a very, very, very different event. So if you're looking to go to one, I wouldn't say this weekend because it's going to be like 0 degrees Celsius all weekend. But I think Indy is one that more people should maybe put on their bucket list because it's a pretty damn good one. Stay downtown. You can walk back and forth to the track, and there's a ton of downtown nightlife that's a pretty good time.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Definitely thanks for taking the time on this one. Always enjoy the insight, and the fans are really enjoying it as well, mate. So we'll look forward to doing this one next week from Europe, probably. But before we wrap up, obviously, big thanks to Fly Racing for sponsoring this one. So make sure you go check out flyracing.com, your local dealer, and obviously flyracing.global on social media. And make sure to be cheering all those riders on this weekend in the SMX World Championship. All right, thanks again, JT. Been another awesome chat. All the best for the weekend, and we'll catch up soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for taking time for me.
No worries, mate. Have a good one.